see you brought yours too, huh?
Mm-hmm. I did.
I figured out mine. Besides the one we talked about, what is this, October one? That's how much more I would be paying. Because that bill was,
Welcome, ladies. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask you all to stand for the invocation and ask Chief Page to offer our invocation.
Heavenly Father God, Lord, we come to you and thank you for the rain that we've had. God, we just thank you for the blessings we don't deserve. God, we ask you to be with our council tonight that make decisions affecting our city. God, we also lift up Debbie Heritage to you, Lord, that you give her speedy recovery in her time of need. God, we ask these many things in your precious Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is items of community interest, and Terry Gunner would like to say something to the community.
Yes, I would, I guess. Hey, I just want to give everybody just a kind of update of what went on this past weekend with the youth of Montague County. We had our county show this past week, and we had a little fundraiser for the kids over there. And on behalf of the kids of the Montague County Youth Fair, I want all the people that supported the kids. It was amazing. We had the highest sale that we've had in years, and our community here was able to contribute over $40,000 to those kids over there. So, hey, if you didn't get involved this year, you may want to next year. It was an awesome sale, and we just want to thank everyone that participated, all the businesses and individuals that supported. It was awesome.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you for all the work that you do, too. Thank you for all the work that you personally do, coming and tracking us all down for our donation.
Just you.
What I would like to remind you of is there's a chamber bag. Be no second meeting in January, and our next meeting will be February the 12th, 24 here. So we're going to move on to the next items, which is the city manager's report.
The first thing is the water line mess, and the mess started on Tuesday afternoon at about 2:30, and Stoney was in my office when he got the call. He let me know immediately that we were looking at shutting down the high service pumps and draining the water towers to get the pressure off the water line so that we could repair the lines and put in valves. Most of the time when we're working old water lines, valves to shut them down were never installed, which hampers our workers because we must then work the leaks wet, which is bad when it's really cold. We decided to go ahead and install 3 valves while we had the system shut down, so that later when we have to, we would not have to shut the system down again. The crew then proceeded to repair the leak. The whole process took about 12 hours until about 2:30 Wednesday morning. I asked Tony to check the lines and see if the lines simply collapsed or if the contractor hit the line. We determined that he did not hit the line. The fact that the lines were exposed for several weeks and were not supported by dirt caused the problem. You might say gravity caused the problem. Later, when the construction company put in, when they put in the new line, we'll be able to isolate the line so that no one will have to do without water for any length of time. Between the recent rains and the water leak, work on the project has slowed down to a crawl. Hopefully it will speed back up when it starts to dry out. We had a meeting today with the contractor and the engineer, and worked out some problems, and we're trying to figure out exactly what to do about the drop box, and as soon as we do that, I'll let you know. As you know, we've been discussing getting an additional transformer for the substation. The mayor and Gary Miller with BTU came up with the idea of getting a transformer that BTU can no longer use because it's too small for their larger system. We're waiting for BTU to give us a price on the transformer, but the good news is that it should cost about 10 to 20% of what a new transformer would cost. Hopefully this will enable us to begin the process of getting a third transformer for the substation at a much lower cost. I'll have more about this later. As y'all know, we operate most of the time on 2 transformers, but if one of them goes haywire on us and we have to work, we have put the whole town on one transformer, and that's not good. So we need to get that third transformer in, so we can get the system up and running. Next time, if you remember back during the big freeze, the winter storm Uri, as they called it, Brazos Electric had to file for bankruptcy because they could not pay for their generating fuel costs because fuel costs were so high. Brazos went through the bankruptcy proceedings, and the court came up with a plan for them to repay the fuel costs. If you will remember, we had to pay $1 to cover our costs, and part of Brazos's and everybody else that had failure at that time. This past week, Brazos made their first payment for the settlement, and our fuel costs will benefit with their payment, which should be less because their payments will cover the cost of fuel for utilities that did not pay for the extra fuel. It'll take a while, but we hope to eventually get our money paid back in time. The next item is the first leg of the sewer line project is near completion. They're about ready to start tying in the duplexes off of Adkins Street. The next phase of the project will be a line on Jakarta Street in the Aljo Addition. It will be a new line that will gravity feed into the east lift station, and we will be able to do away with a lift station, which saves us a lot of money. The good part is that it should not cause any traffic problems like the first phase did, so that's good. Anybody have any questions?
What was the first payment from Brazos? What was that amount?
I don't have any idea. They don't let that information out. I get that word from ERCOT, and they're real secretive, so.
Perfect. What's as far as with our contractor on the water line break, I mean, what kind of contingencies, or is that part of the contract? Because I feel like there's some responsibility to.
Yes, they have responsibility, and that's some of the things that we talked about today. They were talking about some of the fault being theirs because they left the line exposed and unsupported by dirt, and so we're hashing that out right now. We haven't finished it yet, but I'll let you know at some point in time.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do you happen to know what cost that factor that we had involved in that whenever that happened?
Yeah, it cost us about $13,000.
Okay.
That's parts, overtime, everything.
Okay.
We're asking them to reimburse us for this.
Not the total amount, but we're gonna ask for a bunch of it.
It's on. Oh. Christy, would you double check your mic?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No questions on the transformer?
Well, do you know what kind of warranty there is, or is it a used transformer, or?
It's slightly used. They were upgrading their system some years back. The transformer was built in 1993 and used for a short while, and when they upgraded their system, they can't use that size transformers. They have to use one that's about twice that wide, that large in their substation. So it's just been sitting there. We've already had an engineer go and look at it and whatnot. I don't know if there'll be any warranty, but it'll have to be refurbished at our cost, but it'll be like a new transformer when we get it. And I don't think there'll be any kind of warranty, but I don't know.
Is it the same size of the other two
It's
transformers?
just like ours. It's exactly what it is. It's a GE transformer and ready to set in place. So.
Well, that being said, you said that we'd have 10 to 20% reduction on that. Give me a
The
ballpark.
transformer is $1.5 million.
Okay.
New.
Yeah, I knew.
Yeah.
And a 1-year delivery.
Okay, so if that's it, then we'll move on to the consent agenda items. As you'll see, you have the approval of the minutes and the authorized write-offs. And I would entertain a motion to accept all as presented.
I make a motion.
Okay, y'all want to fight over it?
No.
Okay.
I'll
I'm going to go Ashley, and then I'm going to go Post for second.
That was her.
Oh, Bates, sorry. Shaw,
Yes.
Gunner,
Aye.
Ashley,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
Post,
Aye.
McEwen.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda will be planning and zoning, approve a planning and zoning recommendation on the request from PA Now LLC, Meyer, Sawyer-Wicker to replat all of Lot 3, Block 12, Lindsay Addition, commonly known as 510 Ussery Street, and Mr. Calabretta should be at the podium to explain.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On December 21st, the Planning and Zoning Commission met, and we were able to look at this and understand this plat that needed to be split, and so we approved it and ask you to make a motion on that. And you know, it's a simple enough piece of property, just dividing it in two. Any questions for me?
Whether you split it like that, there leaves enough room for housing and all the, or whatever the, let's see, what's there, mobile homes there now? Is that
No,
correct?
there's, the mobile home has been taken off from it, so there's nothing on the property. And they're just making two small lots out of it.
I didn't see a plat. How big were those lots? I'm missing the plat on that?
They're, what, I think they're a quarter acre each, if I remember right.
Like,
.24
.31 and
acres
.24.
one, and the other is .31 acres.
If you're familiar with Ussery Street, they're right up against the railroad track.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I know, I saw
That's
them.
right.
very
You know
last,
where it's at.
Yeah.
very last property on Ussery.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I make a motion that we accept this.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Do I have a second?
A second.
Bates. Gunner,
Aye.
Ashley,
Aye.
Post,
Aye.
McEwen,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
and Shaw.
Aye.
Don't go anywhere. Number 2 is to approve a planning and zoning recommendation request from Atwell LLC on behalf of BW Gas and Convenience Retail LLC to replat tracks 1, 2, 3, and 4, TJ Cummings Survey, creating 1R, 4.94 acres, TJ Cummings Survey Abstract 1339.
And again, Council and Mayor, our Planning and Zoning Commission met on January 4th to consider this. And after looking at all of this, we were able to understand that this would be an easy enough putting together of the 4 lots into one to make the big lot that they need. And so we recommend to you that you approve that one. Any questions?
I'd like to ask if there can be a chance for me to speak to this.
As long as it's on the item that's on the agenda. Yes, sir. You need to take the podium. State your name at the podium, please. Is it only about the plat?
It's about what I'm getting ready, yeah, it's related to this agenda item.
Okay, so again, if it's not about the plat, then no, you can't pass it out.
It is.
Okay.
It has the rules, the ordinances for the plats and how they're delivered to the zoning and commission. My name is George Clay. Thank you all for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
I came here today to talk about the replat before this council, where 4 lots are being combined into 1 lot, so Allsups can develop this 1 lot into a truck stop. This replat is the next step in the Allsups development plan after the city of Bowie approved a rezoning of these lots from commercial to light industrial, which was required so that Allsups could turn those properties into a truck stop instead of a gas station and convenience store.
Mr. Clay,
Yes, ma'am.
you are bringing up a company's name, a
Oh, okay.
property owner's
I'm
name,
sorry.
and you're talking about an inline product? You're
I'm
talking about
sorry.
an inline finished product. The only thing that we can discuss tonight is whether or not the council does or does not approve the replat.
The replat is pretty important to what the next step. What I'm trying to do is to let the council know this is what has gone into this replat, and this is what's going to happen if this is approved or not approved.
I think what you're not understanding is if somebody buys a piece of property, and as long as they're following the laws of our city, then they can build what they want to build on the land.
In copy one, you'll see section 404 of the City of Bowie ordinances. It talks about final plans for planning and zoning committee consideration being delivered 30 consecutive days prior to that meeting at which action is requested. On December 21st, I attended a planning and zoning meeting where the replat plans were being considered, and that committee tabled the matter until issues discussed at the meeting were resolved and the plans were to be corrected and resubmitted. So I point out that there is no possible way that these plans were in possession of the Planning and Zoning Committee that met on January the 4th for 30 consecutive days. There's no possibility, and yet if the piece of paper I gave you all that says 1, it says, and I'll quote, 6 direct plans and 2 film positives for the final shall be executed and filed with the city manager at least 30 consecutive calendar days prior to the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission at which action is requested. And that is a physical impossibility that happened.
Mr. Calabretta, do you have anything to say to this?
The only thing that I have to say is that
Go to the podium, please, so I can hear you.
why we tabled the replatting is that on the deeds that we had, it showed all the names of the people that owned it before, and they hadn't changed that over. So that's all that we were asking the surveyor to do, was give us a new set of the plat map with the A.T. Atwood ownership, and that's the only reason we had to change that.
The plat that I saw at the January 4th meeting still didn't have our name on there as being within 200, being the city limits line to this development. We're still not on there. They're showing Jason Love as the owner of that plat, and my wife and I have owned that for 28 years. That's our homestead, and that's where we've lived. And when this was all being brought about, there was a required notice to be given to everybody within 200 feet of that development, and we were not given notice. So we lost our opportunity for due process and to address the Planning and Zoning Committee before it went from a commercial to a light industrial.
Mr. Clay, it's my understanding, because you're not in the city limits, that you're not inclined to receive that notice.
There's nothing in the ordinances that say anything about not being in the city limits. If you show it to me, I'll be happy to acknowledge that. There's nothing in there that says, it says 200 feet from the property line, and it doesn't say anything about except those people in the city limits, or anything that would mention the word city limits.
Am I correct that he is not to have to be? State law will trump ours.
In our municipality.
It does not. You all adopted the statewide ordinances, and when you adopted those, you tweaked them maybe here and there, but they're the exact ones. And on Friday, I contacted the Attorney General's office, and the Attorney General is going to give a legal opinion on Section 404 and how it relates. Well, 404 is pretty clear, but in the part that talks about the notice, they're going to go in and look at that, since there's no governing body that owns those ordinances, and is going to give a legal opinion about whether there's something that has to do with city limits. The reason I came here tonight was to try to state some facts about how we've gotten to this point and, you know, where we were going from there. I tried to start a conversation with the owners of this tract of land back on December the 9th, and we wouldn't be here tonight if they just called me back. After we talked and told them what I was looking for, we wouldn't be here tonight. I was just looking for some way, and the only way to stop this is to table the approval of this replat tonight until my wife and I can talk to the people that own that property and see what kind of protections we can get from a truck stop that's going to have 16 trucks parked on my fence line.
Okay, now you're talking about a Finline product again.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask David to come. David Rainey, please come to the podium. David, I want the council to offer what you did as your job when it comes to advising, contacting the people that we're required to contact for the zoning.
For the rezoning?
Yes, sir.
We sent out notices to everybody in a 200-foot radius within the city limits, and with reply forms, and nobody replied back negative. And then we moved forward with P&Z and city council.
Okay, and so what is your obligation with a replat to the public? I'm going to take that blank as none.
No, we do not.
You
we do not
present the
have to
replat
send-
to the council.
Right, the replats go, well, we take them in-house and we review them preliminary, and once we look at them, then we take them to the P&Z, and then once they approve them, then they take them to you guys.
Okay, and so the replat is only about making one piece of property two or two pieces of property one. It has nothing to do on the property.
That's correct.
All right, so what I want the council to understand is Mr. Clay's property, unfortunately, is outside the city limits. It has always been the understanding of the city, from what we've been able to ascertain, that our obligation is to our city taxpayers.
Correct.
So this is a possibility of a $7 million project, even though I'm not supposed to talk about the end line, that was the reason this came to the city, put something in our city. So I've talked to Mr. Clay on the phone, and I understand that you felt the need to go to the Attorney General. It's my opinion, and I think that several people in here will agree with me, that even if you had been contacted, you still would have only been one negative voice. So the zoning would have happened, which put us in the place of the plat tonight.
But I'm a formidable single force.
And we're a formidable force inside the city limits.
Let me ask David a question. First of all, I'll say he's been extremely cooperative. Everything I've asked for, he's given me, and I have nothing against him personally or anything that's going on. But when I did talk to him, and I asked him specifically, why were we not given notice? And he said, well, because you're not in the city limits. And then I just want to ask you, do you remember saying anything about courtesy notices?
Courtesy notices? No. What do you mean?
Well, you said sometimes I get courtesy notices to people.
I have never done that in 21 years I've been here.
So let me ask you something, Mr. Clay. Are you going to be happy with anything that goes on that property?
I'm not trying to stop it. I'm trying to start a conversation with the people that own it. So
Have you contacted, I've asked you if you have contacted the EDC director and talked to her.
I have.
You have contacted her?
Yeah, in fact, when my wife and I left here, when we left the zoning commission here on the 21st, she was here. And she said to me and my wife, I will call them in the morning and we'll get a conversation started. And I ran into her Thursday morning when I found out that it was on the front page of the newspaper, and when I came up here to try to find out what was going on, she was here. And I asked her, have you talked to the people at Allsups? And she said, no, I have not. And I called you back when Christy told me to talk to you. I mean, I called Christy and was asking questions about how this all happens. And she said, let me have Galen call you. So you called me, and you told me we want to see that you all are protected. You told me that.
I told you
I mean,
that we knew Allsup's wanted to be a good neighbor.
Yeah, okay, well, I may not get it exactly right, but I got the impression that you were also in favor of, seeing that we were treated some way, but right now, I have a December 9th phone call to the people that own this property, told them that we were the neighbors, he knew exactly who I was and where my property was, and said, we're just wanting to see if we can talk about some screening and light ordinances in this town about, what kind of lighting or what kind of lumens or where they're pointed, and would like to have some mitigation efforts on that. And he said, that's above my pay grade, and I'll have to get back in touch with you, and I've never heard a word since.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop you there because we've gone down that rabbit hole again. We also don't speak for Allsup's. We know that Allsup's wants to be a good neighbor. But tonight, the only thing we're trying to get the council to look at and decide whether or not they want to approve is the replat of a single piece of property.
All I'm asking for is that this matter be tabled until such time as we can work something out with Allsup's.
But
I'm just-
what
that's my
timeline would you
request.
ask of us?
What?
Because what timeline would you ask of us? Because the
will-
property owner is already ready to move
I
forward.
will guarantee you, they will call me tomorrow if you table this matter today. Guarantee it.
So my response to you and to the council is, and I know this sounds very harsh, I know it does, but we work for the taxpayers of the city of Bowie, and we're supposed to make decisions that are best for the taxpayers and the residents of the city of Bowie.
It's just that you're just tabling the matter to give us a chance to talk to the people about what's going to happen with the screening, and that's it. For 2 months, I've been ready to talk to somebody about how much that's going to cost. I know it's a
You realize we have no say-so on what
That's right.
Allsup's
It's a
does.
$6 million project, and if all of that costs $50,000, including what they paid for it, that's just at 0.5% of the cost of this entire construction project. I guarantee you, if you table this matter, they will call me tomorrow and we will work this out.
But what do you want to work out?
I want to work out how they're going to help with screening and these trucks that are going to be parked in the areas that they've got marked. They're-
So,
if
again,
you
we're
don't-
going down a rabbit hole here. So what you're wanting to do is blackmail.
No, ma'am,
Allsup's.
I don't,
I'm using that for a lack of a better word, but you're wanting us to put a stop to a decision tonight for you to get something that you want in return.
Well, if I'd have been here 2 months ago when I should have gotten notice, maybe we wouldn't be here tonight either. I'm not trying to blackmail anybody. I'm just saying that for 2 months, since November the 9th, David Pemberton has not called me back to say what they're going to do. So I have no illusion to think that they're going to be good neighbors. I just don't. And I'm a businessman, and, there's a certain way that you do things, and they could have picked up the phone one time, and I'll guarantee you there'd have been a good conversation going on. I'm in the oil business, and we drill $7 million wells all the time, and if somebody came to me and they had a $50,000 or $100,000, road problems or things we're going to have to discuss, it's nothing in the grand scheme of things. And all I'm asking for is a little help to help mitigate noise, noxious fumes. There's all kinds of things in the ordinance that say noxious fumes and noise are not to be a part of an L1 district. But I've missed that opportunity to talk about that because I wasn't there at that one, and I'm stuck with this replat. So this is my last shot to try to slow something down enough that we can have a conversation. And
Let me ask you this. If we pass the replat, what, does that just mean they're going to immediately start building?
they'll be getting a building permit next. They have to have the replat before they can get the building permit. And so as soon as this replat is gathered, they'll be issued a building permit.
So has anyone from the city spoke with them?
Janice, would you like to come to the podium?
So I'm Janice Crawley, the Economic Development Director here in this town. And so I have had a brief conversation with Mr. Clay, and I also spoke with someone from the company last week. And we are the Economic Development Corporation. In my last conversation with Mr. Clay, I told him that I would speak to my board. So I have to go with what my board, the direction of my board. Unfortunately, Mr. Clay is an individual that is outside the city limits, and we cannot spend any funds to benefit him. But we can work directly with the company, and we are willing to work with that company, and I am in contact with that company, and they are in contact with their powers to be to come up with something. But what we need is that they would be happy with, so that we can move forward with conversation. And I'm under the understanding that Mr. Pemberton has had a conversation with Mr. Clay.
Yes, on November the 9th. I said that.
But
So
since-
Janice, when you say you need a solution, that means you need to know what Mr. Clay is willing to settle for.
That's correct. Yes,
Okay, again,
So really,
that's not
this is-
really this council's decision.
that's exactly right. So the decision that's before the council tonight is to actually replat this into one piece of property. And so going forward, to me, the conversation should be between Mr. Clay and my department and the company's department to come up with a solution.
So based on your conversation with the company, are they willing to?
Yes,
Work?
they are. Yes.
Well, he told me, he said, we want to be good neighbors. And I told him, we're looking for some kind of attractive screening of some sort, and we thought, you know, everybody hates. I said, this is what I'm looking for. And he said, well, that's way above my pay grade. I'm going to have to go talk to my bosses, but I'll get back to you. November the 9th. So I'm still without hearing from anybody, and that's why I don't, you know.
I would expect that I would have expected you not to hear back from them until they finally closed on the property, for sure. Because why talk to you unless they knew the sale was gonna go through? But after that,
They were closed on the property by the 21st, I know that, because the hearing, you know, there was the replat zoning hearing was then, and they announced at that meeting, I believe, that they had closed on all the properties. So that was 3 weeks ago, and I'm just, you know, I'm not a bad person, I'm not.
oh, I know,
I can go
I'm
do
not,
this
I'm not
stuff,
suggesting that by
and
any
we'll
stretch of the
be just
imagination.
fine with it, I just don't feel like there's been a, yeah.
It's just my understanding.
What I'm listening to, I'm taking all this in, but what I'm understanding is right now, though, you've talked to them, they seem like they want to be good neighbors, they want to work with you, and what our decision today is to just determine if we want to replat this plat or not, and then, once that's done, you know, we don't have any control over y'all's relationship, and we won't ever have any control of that. Now, what I'm seeing is that our EDC is willing to go in and try to work with them to make everything work for everyone. And most businesses that come in are going to try to be good neighbors. They obviously already told you that. So I don't see how the council can be involved in the decision-making whether or not we don't approve it, because we don't know what the relationship's going to be, because we want to make sure all this works out. Obviously, we want it to work out for everyone. That's what our job is try to make it all work out. But at this time, I feel like our position right now is to look at this plat so we can continue to go on with the business of what we need to do. That's what I'm getting out of all this.
So David, let me ask you a question, let me go back to you. This has been presented to the council for an approval on a plat. There has to be a reason that would be legal to keep them from approving something like this.
For the replat, yes.
So you wouldn't be able to just take your personal opinions into consideration when it comes to something like this. There would have to be something that was illegal or that didn't meet the codes and the ordinances.
Right, if the plat is in compliance, then it needs to be approved.
So even at that, Mr. Clay, our council's hands are almost tied to making a decision.
There's a motion to table and a second, and you vote. It's supposed to be taken up, but I will point out that the piece of paper I gave you specifically says that 6 direct prints, 2 film positive for the final plat shall be executed and filed with the city manager at least 30 consecutive calendar days prior to the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission at which action is requested. So you know, on a technicality, those plats could not possibly have been in the possession of David Rainey's office for 30 consecutive days because of, you know, December, I mean, sometime between December 21st and January 4th, those plats were sent back to David Rainey's office after being corrected, and therefore you cannot have 30, there's no such thing as 30 consecutive days. So I'm questioning whether that was a legal presentation of the documents that were required.
Okay, David wants to, hang on just a second, Ann. David wants to respond to that.
I don't have the exact dates with me, but I've been working with this replat, the preliminary replats, for about 3 months and received 5 or 6 different copies, trying to get it corrected along the way, but their problem was closing on the property, getting those names off of there in time for the meeting and stuff like that. But I have been working on it for a long time.
Okay.
It does say final plat. And
Okay.
there were problems with the plat at the December 21st Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Planning and Zoning Commission tabled the approval and sent those plats back.
Okay, Ms. Smith?
Yes, my name is Ann Smith, and I just wanted to reiterate what George said, is there is a small legal issue here. And in addition to the legal issue that Mr. Clay has discussed, there is the lack of notice. There is a 200-foot rule. It doesn't say anything about whether you are in the city limits or not. His property line is the city limits of Bowie. He's in the ETJ. There are regulations that you have to follow regarding notifying people in the ETJ. He was never notified. So I think you have 2 issues of legality on this.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else, Mr. Clay?
Know if I'd be allowed to say it.
I think we got it.
David, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Janice, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Mr. Calabretta?
I do want to make a closing comment. The people I've talked to with the city have told me that they didn't owe me notice. And while they may have followed what they thought was the letter of law, they certainly didn't follow the spirit of the law. And I think everybody in this room knows it would have been the right thing to do to notify us of that rezoning hearing that was going to that had to change the zoning to get from a gas station convenience store to a truck stop. And I just think the people of Bowie would want the right thing to be done, and this council as well. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Calabretta, did you have anything else you wanted to say? Okay, thank you.
I know that was a 3-minute meeting.
Okay, so council, you have a decision to make tonight.
Well, I guess the fact of the matter would be this. First of all, I do want to go by the letter of the law. So, you know, without 100% knowing whether or not we did, that's, you know, with a technicality in there that we didn't do it, I don't know how we could continue unless we know that we're in the right, you know?
Well, you approved the rezoning, so,
Yeah, but I did not know about the
Yeah, we
technicality.
didn't have all that,
You know,
necessarily that information either.
I mean, you know, in any situation when you're enlightened on something else, I mean, you have to take that in consideration. One thing that I'm bound to do is I want to do everything by the law. And, you know, I mean, obviously I want the development to come into our deal, but the fact is that what I'm understanding is Mr. Clay's not trying to stop that. He's just, I mean, he's got a legal, I mean, if this is correct, if the technicality is there, I don't know what happens if we approve it, because I'm all about approving the plat. I will tell the citizens that right now. but I want to do it the right way, okay? So I'm asking you, Mayor, is there any legal action that could be against us in doing that?
Well, I think if you're concerned about that, then you need to table it and ask the attorney.
Okay?
Yes, because actually the planning and zoning didn't approve that until January the 4th. That's a long way from
30 days.
what our code of ordinances say. So,
It's up to you guys.
did you make a motion?
I will make the motion. I'll make a motion that we table this.
I'll second it.
Second.
Do we need specific reasons why we're tabling? Do we need to mention the two items?
Sandy's taken it all down in the minutes, so I think if we table this, then we need to, Sandy, will you contact the attorney tomorrow? And maybe the Attorney General's office? And then we'll see what we can get and have it back on the February 12th agenda.
Well, one thing I would like to add to this while we're talking about this discussion
Yes.
now. Mr. Clay, you told me what I understood in here also in your words is if we table this, you would have an answer tomorrow of what would take place. I don't want this to be a long, drawn-out process. And you said that you're willing to work with those people as well. So I would hope to think that you could make a phone call back to the city and say, hey, I'm good with this, you know.
You have my word.
Okay. Okay, I think that's good enough for me.
All right, then I'll call for a vote. Gunner?
Aye.
Shaw?
I mean, I struggle with what we're looking at here, you know, as far as planning and zoning, and then the notice, and I don't disagree, and I get that we could probably do a better job at kind of addressing the surrounding things, but the economic development and the impact we have here is what I'm kind of concerned with. So, no.
No? McEwen?
Aye.
Post?
Aye.
Aye.
Ashley?
Aye.
All right, so we've got a 5-4. We'll table it, and it'll be on the February 12th agenda. But if you hear something before then, please call myself or the city manager. All right. What time is it? Yeah. All right, so the next item on the agenda is to consider the request from the Bowie EDC for the property at 508 North Mason Street to be deeded for an additional 5 years. Janice Carla's going to come to the podium.
You can't hurt it.
In June of 2019, the city conveyed to the Economic Development Corporation a piece of property that you had at the corner of 59 and Orchard Street. That property adjoined property that the Economic Development Corporation already owned. The provision or the instructions from the city to the EDC were to take that lot, to put it with our lot, to advertise it, to use it, to work, and to try to attract a new business to be located on that property. And we have done that. We have been able to show it many times. We have been able to add it to the list of properties that we can talk to any new prospect about. That gave us a piece of property for new construction, along with buildings downtown, buildings on Y Street, property in the industrial park. It gave us a varied amount of properties to discuss with a new town. We have dealt with COVID during that period of time. We've dealt with rising interest rates and a struggling economy, and have not been successful in getting anyone located on that lot. But we have worked at it, we've tried, we've had several opportunities to talk with people,
in some areas, that we in the future would be able to attract a business. You know, if you drive by that lot as councilman, it looks like this big, spacious, great lot, great location, should be an easy fix. Well, it is a wonderful location. But that lot is surrounded on three sides by streets, and those streets cause that property to have a 25-foot building setback line on three sides. And that back side is long. So when you take 25 feet off of 59, 25 feet off of Orchard Street, and 25 feet off of all of that back street that curves, you're left with not a real big area to build on. Then, depending on the type of business you have to have, that dictates how many parking spots you have to have. All of that's according to the P&C ordinances. So, you know, I just don't want you to drive by and think, oh my gosh, that should have been an easy, perfect thing. It hadn't been. But we've had several things against us. Like I said, COVID, interest rates, the economy. But we're here tonight to ask you guys to consider extending that date that we were to have possession and use of that property for another 5 years. The original conveyance, like I said, was in 2019. You conveyed it to the EDC until December of 2023, and that time is come and gone. So that's why we're back tonight to asking you to consider extending that date and giving us a chance to find a business that would be attractive, that would complement the downtown area, and that would employ some, or provide some jobs. If, you know, we could get a professional building in there, I'm thinking doctors, dentists, CPA, attorneys, something on that nature. It might not employ as many jobs, but it would nicely fit the lot size and complement the downtown area. You know, we've had people that talk to us about a couple of things that we were like, that's not what we want on that location. And so we're just asking that you would consider extending that date for a 5-year period and let us continue to try to find the right fit for the property that was the city's and the property that we have already owned. Together, they would make a piece of property that hopefully we can get something good in there for the city.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
How many pre-qualified buyers have you had that looked at the property?
Well, we had never gotten to the point of looking at someone's business plan or their financials, because we've had people that have been interested, and then when they look at the size of the lot, it didn't fit for their particular business. Or when they looked at the financial investment, they on their own pulled and said, no, we can't swing that. So, like I said, it's been bad timing with,
So basically, really no interested buyers have looked at it, right?
well, no, that's not true. In the last 7 months, we've had 2 very interested buyers, but they pulled back because of interest rates.
Hey, Carla, what do you look for?
Talk in your microphone, please.
What do you look for when you're looking at a business coming in? What are the qualities, or what do you look for?
Some of it's gut, if you want to know the honest truth. You know, if we had, let me think of an example. But if we had something that we didn't consider sightly, or the type business that we wanted in the downtown area, that would be a detriment. I mean, if we could find something that would provide entertainment for our children,
Okay, yeah.
that would be something the community needs. I'm not sure that's the perfect location, but that would be something the community needed. If we had someone that wanted to build an office building for professionals, like attorney, CPAs, some of the things that we are starting to struggle, you know, as people have gotten older and retired, you know, we have a need for some of that. And that would be awesome. So, at the beginning, everybody's concerns or their interests and what they think they might want to do with it. But then when we get serious, we look at their business plan, their financials, their capital investment, and then will this be good for the city?
So how much did the city, it was before my time, so how much did the city pay for that?
So that was
Took
bought,
it in trade.
no, that was bought for the original city hall plan. It was the first piece of property that was bought, I don't know what year, but it was way before me too. And then it was determined to be too small, and that's when they bought the property out on 1125. So their original investment was almost 300,000, 290, something like that. And then we divided it in half and took in trade the finance building for most of it for the back half. So the city was only left with the front half of the piece of property.
So,
And then
oh, you took it in trade from the bank? from
Yes.
Latham Bank?
Yes, and that's how we wound up with the finance building. And then they bought it from the bank,
because of the fact that the part that you had was too small,
yes.
and the part the bank had was too small. But together, it's a great location, and together, something can work there. We've just got to find the right something.
The
But separate, they're both too small.
Yeah, and the main reason for entering into this agreement, which I don't think anybody sitting here on the council was here then, were you here then, Terry? So, was because we don't, when we decide to get rid of something, we have to sell it to the highest bidder. Well, it was a half of that lot. What's the total acreage over there?
1.37.
So it was half of it that we had left. So they have a lot more liberties on how to promote and use the property than we have. So that's
They
why
own
we,
more of it.
well, together it's 1.3 property, 1.3 acres, 37 acres. Our half, again, which should we decide to sell it, we have to go to the highest bidder. So there was too small a piece of property there to make anything really work at that point. So that's why we entered into the agreement with them for them to market it for us.
Was the city have any current plans for it? I mean, what would we do with
No.
it otherwise?
Well, I don't know that we,
Yeah.
again,
Well, I'll tell you, just, this is based on my real estate experience here. Guys, it only takes one person. And, you know, to me, I know there's been interest in this thing. I've had the opportunity to work with the EDC on a few things. I don't see any reason that we wouldn't want to continue to do this and allow them to market it so we could, because they have the interest of the city to what the looks of that property needs to be. So I feel very comfortable with that.
I
So-
feel like as long as they haven't, we're not gonna get a mechanic shop or a beer barn or something like that in our downtown district.
Well, and the majority of new businesses looking at your area, they come to your EDCs first.
Mm.
You know, they come to us and say, what's available? What have you got? What's the need? Do you think this business would work? We get those inquiries. And yes, our 4A board is primarily, our job is for manufacturing companies to bring those in and your major employers to provide jobs for the citizens. But we get all of those, from the little lady thinking about putting in a dress shop to the guy wanting to do a beer barn or whatever. We get everything in between. So we have the first contact, the first chance to say, well, let me show you what we've got or what can be offered to you. So that was one of the reasons too, Donna, that it seemed like the best fit was to let the EDC negotiate with those businesses coming into town or try to, attract businesses that are needed here.
I have to agree. I think you guys are in the right spot and the right, like you said, negotiating standing to do that. I wouldn't want to see us discriminate too hard against, what necessarily goes there. I think you guys have the heart or the idea of what is the best thing for the city, so.
Well, and I didn't mean to imply that, we're just discriminating
Sure.
against some businesses, but we do want to attract something that is needed for the citizens, that would be an attractive building, and that would complement the downtown area, because as Bowie grows, that's definitely going to be part of the downtown area.
Sure.
So anyway, that's why we're here, that's our request.
Thank you. Council, any other questions? I would entertain a motion to accept the request of the EDC.
I make a motion.
Dang, never has that happened.
I was ready to make one 10 minutes ago.
Second.
All right, so I've got a motion by Terry, a second by Shaw. Those are the loudest. Ashley? Bates? Post? McEwen?
Aye.
Gunner?
Aye.
And Shaw.
Yes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is to consider the 4-day work week from the city offices, but I've been asked if I will remove this from the agenda and put it on the next agenda. So it's going to be removed and brought back on the 12th. So then we'll go into the new business, which is discussion of power cost recovery increase. And by law, we are allowed and we are going to go into executive session. So council, follow me into the chambers. 6:55. Are you taking notes? No, you can't take notes.
celebrate you, but
I've been sitting in there waiting for the milk duds. He said you stole all the milk duds.
it's weird. Why do I have one?
Is that?
We're going to come back in from executive session at 7:47, and our executive session was called in the law 551.086, certain public power utilities and competitive matters. The item on the agenda is power cost recovery, so I will entertain a motion from the council.
Motion to approve as presented.
TJ? Do I have a second?
Second.
Post? Any discussion? Terry?
Did you say me?
Yes, sir. I
You
did.
would say Gunner, so I didn't know. Sorry. No.
Ashley?
No.
TJ?
Aye.
Post?
Aye.
Christie?
No.
Shaw?
No.
Okay. No rate increase.
Thank you.
So we are going to adjourn at, oh no, we have a podium for open.
Is
Ashley?
this citizens' comments?
Yes, public comments.
All right. I'm gonna read mine like Bert does his so that I don't forget what I wanna say.
Well, you only got 3 minutes. So give
I
me-
know, I only have 3 minutes, so I gotta get in. As a new council member, there's some things that I'd like to comment on. I'd like to see us move our citizens' comments back to the beginning of the meeting, because most people don't know that they can speak during the discussion. There are still some people that don't know that. I think we should encourage comments from the citizens at council meetings. Then maybe we could reduce so much negativity on social media. Number 2, update and revamp our city website so that information is current and not so difficult to find. I find it really hard sometimes to find out things myself on there. All in all, being more transparent to our citizens so that everything we do will be on that website, people can find it. I know that the Bowie News does a great job of this, but it's a one-time thing when they report it as it happens, and on our website it could be viewed more often, and people could go back to it and look at it. I'd also like to start having a bi-monthly or at least a quarterly council workshop to discuss our short and long-term goals and how they should be helping the citizens, with input from the department heads on their long-term goals and what problems they may be facing at that time, not just one time a year. And then I'd like to see more information on our agendas so that we might be more prepared for a meaningful discussion, such as items that were on the city manager's report and on the electric rates and such as.
Okay, thank you. Do we have other comments from the floor? No? Then we will adjourn our meeting at 7:51.